Hey, Steve and I are on vacation, but we have a quality podcast for you today. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Ali Marpet a couple days ago and our breakdown of the Bucs offense. Today, we're going to take on the defense of the Buccaneers. And of course, they need lots of improvement from last season. They've done some things in the offseason, like signing Hassan Reddick, their outside linebacker who came from the Jets and Philadelphia Eagles before that. So lots of changes on defense, and of course, they hope they get some guys healthy as well. So we'll dig into that in just a minute and preview the Bucs defense as we get ready for training camp here in just a few days. But first, hey, get on down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. I'm telling you, if you want the greatest timepiece you've ever owned, this is where you're going to find it. Second floor. It's a tremendous store, great customer service. Go in there, spend some time, learn about these great products. The Breitling Company has been in business for over 140 years. They've been at International Plaza Mall for more than 5 years, and they're going to match your needs with just exactly what you want. Men's watches, the Chronomats, the Navitimers, women's watches for your wife or your girlfriend as well. These are sports watches. They are gorgeous. They are durable, and they come in just a tremendous array of wristbands that she can choose from. And while supplies last, the Breitling Company is making the NFL's 32 team watches. This is the NFL's 104th year anniversary. They're celebrating that. Each team has its own watch that's a Chronomat watch crafted beautifully with the team colors on the face, the logo. And this is while supplies last. Believe me, folks, they're going fast. So you got to get on down there in a hurry. Go to tampabay.com. You'll see a picture of the Bucs team watch in an ad for Breitling Boutique. You're going to love this store. You're going to love the customer service. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you get there, let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. You know, it was very interesting talking to Todd Bowles about his defense in particular at the NFL owners meetings going back in March. And he was pretty, forthright about how badly they played last season and, particularly allowing a lot of passing yards in the middle of the field. Injuries were a big part of their story a year ago. There's no question about that. But they knew they had to make some changes. And one thing he said, and he hasn't elaborated on it since, was he goes, I looked at every single play of every single game, and then I had a eureka moment. Now, we're going to speculate maybe till the end of time what that eureka moment was. But what I think it was is it kind of got away from his formula a little bit. And I think part of it because they didn't have the players to play his style. Look, Todd Bowles loves to put pressure on the quarterback and loves for his defensive backs to play, a lot of mixed of coverages. But man to man is his favorite. And last year, I remember having conversations with him about, how far off these defensive backs were playing. Now they had injuries and, you had guys playing that had never really been in those starting roles before after some of those injuries to Jamel Dean and others. And so the coverage was soft. They completed a lot of passes against them. And how what the Bucs felt their biggest needs were. And a lot of people going into the draft said, "Oh, you got to get an inside linebacker." KJ Britt went to Miami. Lavonte David's, 35 years old. They completed all these passes over the middle of the field. And that's true to an extent. They didn't feel like the value was there when they took Emeka Egbuka, who was a much cleaner player on offense that they also needed. And I think that people short-sighted a little bit that SirVocea Dennis was playing really good football in his second season last year before, he aggravated a shoulder injury and had to have surgery and missed the rest of the season. And so now SirVocea comes back. But what they did, Steve, was they're not sitting, standing put there at linebacker. Lavonte, as I mentioned, 35 years old, but he continues to defy Father Time. 122 tackles last year, led the team, 5.5 sacks. I mean, just making plays everywhere. Is he the same player he was the first 13 years of his career? No. And that they're going to have to account for that somehow. But his experience makes up for a lot of it. right? Getting Dennis back will be huge, but they didn't just say, well, we got these two guys, and if something happens, we're screwed. They went and backed up those guys with veteran linebackers who have played and started in this league. In the case of Deion Jones, a former Pro Bowl player from the Atlanta Falcons, Anthony Walker Jr. from the Miami Dolphins. Britt went to Miami. Walker came to Tampa Bay. He's known Lavonte David since they were, running around down there, near where he went to high school at Northwestern High School down there in Miami. And so they're happy to be together. But these guys have made a ton of plays. So if you do have an injury this year, if you do have some kind of drop off, it's going to be a competitive room. Look, Walker and Jones are not here just to sit. They're going to push guys. They're going to push, obviously, SirVocea Dennis for playing time, and there will be packages for them. But the biggest thing is if you sustain an injury now, you're not going to somebody who has never played, and they feel very, very confident. Walker is a great guy. He's got a ton of energy for a guy that's played in the league 6 or 7 or 8 years. And he knows what he's doing, and so there's a trust there. So to me, that was their biggest hole. Steve, I think the biggest thing that's going to determine sort of how the Bucs do on defense this year, it's going to be the play of Hassan Reddick. I mean, they went all in to try to find a veteran edge rusher. And this is a guy that prior to being traded to the Jets from the Eagles, he wanted a new deal. He didn't get it, sat out, all of training camp, all of preseason, missed the first 7 games. When he came back, it's kind of like a washout year. He had 1 sack, I think. But he's motivated now. He's 30 years old, however. But he knows that if he plays well, he was on pace to get the kind of money that these edge rushers are getting, some $30 million a year. He wants his bag. He's back with Larry Foote, who he had as a rookie in Arizona coming out with the Cardinals. I think for this defense to go, Hassan Reddick's got to give them what they're looking for, which is 10-plus sacks.
Well, no question about it, because if he goes and he can perform at the level that you hope he can, and maybe he can even exceed that, but if he can perform that, it's gonna finally show what Yaya Diaby can do.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't think he's a number 1 edge rusher. Not yet. Maybe he can be.
Right.
And last year he was kind of expected to be a number 1, and he wasn't yet. Now he's still
Took
young.
Took a step back.
Right. Having Hassan Reddick on the other side should allow him to finally maybe reach some of that potential that you hope he can hit.
Yep.
We're going to see what Braswell can do.
And that's a great name right there. Chris Braswell is a talented kid that was a little undersized, came out of Alabama. If you look at what he did the last 5-6 games, he had a lot of quarterback pressures. He ended up with a sack and a half, which is not the story. But he played the last 6 weeks way better than he did before that. And I think Braswell has a big upside. They took him in the 2nd round, Steve. I mean, it's not they have a lot of hope for this guy.
Yes.
And so playing behind a guy like Reddick, playing with Yaya Diaby, his 2nd year versus his 1st year, knowing what he has to do, how people are going to try to block him, he's going to be in that rotation with Anthony Nelson on the other side, these guys coming in. And I really do believe that there's a whole lot more that you can get from him. And you're right. Defenses, there's no secrets here. Todd Bowles loves to blitz, but he does it from an exotic way. And he would rather, as any defensive coordinator, he would rather rush 4 and drop 7, right? How did they beat Aaron Rodgers? It wasn't with blitzes. Vita Vea, who played 33 snaps in an NFC Championship game, did not record a stat, but he pushed the pocket so hard on passing downs. He only played on passing downs that Rodgers had to flee right or left, and they combined, him and JPP and Shaq Barrett combined for 5 sacks that day. You've got 2 good inside guys. Look, Elijah Cansey, if he could ever start the season without a calf sprain, is a force. And him and Vita have worked together now 2 years in a row. Vita Vea is a Pro Bowler. If you get that going and you got a Reddick on one side, who's going to, let's face it, if I'm a team and I've got a game wrecker like Reddick, I got to slide my protection his way. What does that do for Yaya Diaby, who last year, because Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was not getting it done on the other side, last year Diaby faced a tight end on his side, a chipping running back on his side, and then you saw his production go from 7.5 sacks to 4.5 sacks. Football is a simple game. It's hard to do, but you do have to affect the quarterback, right? If you're on defense. And if you've got a couple of edge rushers that can win, and you've got guys that can push that pocket inside, now you can play cover with 7 on 5, and now you have an advantage numerically. So to me, it's hard to say, well, this is all on Reddick, but you know what? It's kind of they need Reddick to be great the way he was prior to going to the Jets.
Well, you want him to be great. I think he just needs to be very good. Because,
Okay.
Look, we've talked about, if he's great, phenomenal, that's what you hope for. He'll go get his bag after this year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he's striving for, which is you want a hungry guy like that.
Sure, he is hungry.
Kind of what Shaq Barrett when you got him here.
Exactly.
After spending 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, in Denver behind guys,
right.
finally got his chance. It's not quite the same, but it's that hunger.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this with the Rays lineup at times, and bringing Hassan Reddick in, a proven pass rusher. Now slots Yaya Diaby, Braswell, all these guys into where they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Diaby's not a number 1 pass rusher yet. He
Right.
might get there. He's not yet.
Right.
Braswell showed he's not quite a number 2 yet.
Mm-mm.
Maybe he'll get there. Maybe he'll become a number 1 over time. But they're in their second and third years.
Right.
Like, they're young. By having Reddick there now, it kind of slots everybody in. And Reddick's going to take a lot of the attention from the offensive line, in addition to Vea and Cansey, which should make Diaby, Braswell, and anybody else rushing or your blitz even more effective. And so just his presence there, even if he doesn't come away with 12 sacks this year, his presence is going to make everyone else around them better. And that's what this Bucs defense, because as you said, if you can get a pass rush without blitzing, you win. If you can drop 7, you win.
No question.
In football, that's if you have to blitz, that's when the offense has opportunities.
And here's the wild card of this thing, and I'm just gonna. David Walker kid is a player, just an absolute stud, and he's going to be somebody to watch. I think as the year goes on, he'll probably get more and more reps. He went to Central Arkansas, okay, which is not, in a big conference necessarily. What you want to see at these FBS schools, though, is you want to see a guy dominate. This cat absolutely dominated, and just it's hard to evaluate anybody if you play on offense or defensive line in the off season, training camp, all that stuff, or training camp you can, but mini camps and stuff like that. But David Walker is going to be a story. He's going to factor in this season somehow. And then we still have Jose Ramirez that, every year we wind up talking about him, and every year he doesn't get his opportunity. But if you talk to Tristan Wirfs, if you talk to Luke Gedeke, as I do all the time, and they go, oh, man, he goes, in practice, Jose's on the scout squad. He gives us fits. Like, he's going up against us and he's beating us, They can't wait to see this guy have an opportunity. So a little more depth on the defensive line. The hope is to get pressure. Now, what comes with pressure? Pressure and coverage work hand in glove, right? Like, the more pressure you put on a quarterback, the ball's coming out faster, the tighter the coverage you can play. And I remember talking to Todd Bowles. It frustrated me last year because we'd see, teams completing balls in front of their defensive backs who were playing way too loose. And I was like, why are these guys so? He goes, well, I want them to play tighter coverage. I want them to move up. When you're on the sideline, you can almost physically Woody Hayes them and move them up yourself. But that didn't happen last year for a lot of reasons. I thought Zion McCallum was their best corner, no question. But what they have done now is kind of, if the word might not be right in terms of giving up on Jamel Dean, but they're not waiting for Jamel Dean anymore, right? Jamel Dean makes plenty of money, some $14 million a year, but he is hurt a lot. He's kind of Carlton Davis light in that sense. I think he's missed 9 games in the last 2 years. So what do? we mentioned that Emeka Ibuka went number 1 for them. Their second-round pick was Notre Dame defensive back Benjamin Morrison. And Benjamin Morrison would have been a first-rounder if not for the fact that he had to have hip surgery and missed most of his season last year. Prior to that, this cat was, 6 interceptions a year, could do it all. Okay. So you not only got Benjamin Morrison, and the reports are that he'll be ready for training camp. He did some stuff in OTAs. It's not like he's still coming back from surgery, but he was pretty good to do a lot of stuff in OTAs, and he'll be ready for training camp. And then they doubled down and went and got Jacob Parrish. And Jacob Parrish from Kansas State, within a practice or two, was taking balls the other way. Like this dude, littlest guy. He's like kind of Ronnie Barberish size, 5'9", 5'10", can play inside as well as outside at his size. Most guys his size don't do well out there. He can do both. I think he's going to absolutely be their nickel corner this year, and he'll have to beat some guys out for that spot. But I look for him to do it. And so you take that secondary, and Dean has to compete to keep his job. Period. If Morrison wins it, Parrish, whatever, Dean's going to have to come to play and stay on the field. Now you take a guy like Tyke Smith and move him back to safety, and he asked for this, by the way. He said, "Hey, how do I stay on the field more? I'll be willing to play safety if it means I go from 75% of the snaps to 100." And they said, "Deal." And now he's going to be playing back with hopefully a healthier Antoine Winfield Jr., who just was snake bit last year, got hurt in the first game, aggravated something later in the season, only started 9 games. Believe me when I tell you that Antoine Winfield Jr. has every intention of going back and becoming the player that he was 2 years ago. And that was an all-pro safety that, wound up with the biggest contract of any defensive back in football. So if Smith can make that transition, and I think that he will, if either Dean or Morrison, one of these guys, excel in training camp and win that job, they're deeper at the secondary, and they got guys with ball skills. Morrison has a ton of ball skills. Parrish has a ton of ball skills. They're going to turn you over. So I feel good about it in terms of I think the eureka moment was we've got to get better corners. The eureka moment was we got to play tired coverage, right? We got to get more pressure on the quarterback with rushing 4. And then they went out and did what they did with Hassan Reddick. The middle of the field is still a question mark to me. Like I really like SirVocea Dennis, but they went into last year knowing he had a shoulder situation. And in fact, it rotator cuff blew out and didn't hold up after 4 weeks, and he was done for the year. And that crushed them because they didn't have a lot of depth behind him. So getting SirVocea back is huge. But like I said, they got veterans behind those guys as well. And you still have guys like, Antonio Greer, John Bullock, who's a rookie, undrafted free agent from Nebraska they really like. So they're deeper than you think. Like that room is better than most people are giving it credit for because these guys have played a hell of a lot of football and good football. And so at least there's not the drop off between starter and a dude that never played before. So, and from that standpoint, I like their team. I don't love their defense, Steve, but a lot of it, as you said, is how fast does Yaya Diaby grow up? How fast does Kalijah Cansey grow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you drafted these guys 2 years ago. Yep. Are they going to hit their stride now and really, really burst onto the scene?
Well, I think, the cornerbacks, how quick they, rookies are going to have, they're going to take some lumps. And,
oh, yeah.
But with the better pass rush, it's going to help them and, make that transition easier. Tyke Smith's transition, like there's a lot of questions on the defense. I think it's good. And last year they were a good defense. They're never going to lead the league in the least amount of yards given up. They're kind of a bend, don't break defense. But they also, at the critical times the last few years, have had struggled. And in part, I think they get tired and worn out. And so I think there's a little more depth this year, which should help, assuming they can stay healthy. And if the offense, as we talked about yesterday, can cut down on the turnovers, quit putting the defense in bad spots more than any other team in the league,
Right.
Like if Baker can cut those turnovers down, you have more depth on defense, and Reddick can help the progression of Diaby and Cansey and everybody, or Braswell, then then I think it could be a really good defense. I think they're good. I think they have a chance to be really good. But they're going to need health for one, and they're going to need Winfield and Reddick and SirVocea Dennis to kind of live up to what they're expected to live up to, what the level that they think they can get to.
I think people forget how good. I mean, I know
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a long time ago. Antoine Winfield Jr. was one of the best players in the league.
No question.
2 years ago. Like, he made every play. He had a ton of sacks. I want to say 5 or 6 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
A ton of interceptions. He made those hustle plays on the goal line where he knocked balls out of guys' hands before they were going in the end zone. He made every play. And you can't predict health. It's a collision sport. Guys are hurt. It's part of football.
Yep.
I talked to him in the offseason, and he said, listen, he goes, it's just the part of the game, man. Like, his dad played 12 seasons in the NFL. He was disappointed. He tried to fight through it. First it was a foot, then the knee, and he couldn't be himself. And it just it frustrated him just to no end.
Yep.
Right. But he's back healthy to start this season. We'll see how long that lasts. It was disappointing a year ago. One of the most disappointing things of last season on defense was that they got Jordan Whitehead back from the Jets. They had such great expectations. They thought the communication would be great, that Whitehead would fall back into his role of that in-the-box thumper, and even more so that he had gained some ball skills with New York playing cover two, and he just didn't show up. It just didn't happen. And then on the eve of the playoff game, of course, he got in that horrible accident and wasn't able to play, went on the non-football injury list. And now, to my knowledge, he's not in the National Football League because he hurt his neck. We'll see if he's able to reach a team or not. But listen, this Tyke Smith kid is the real deal. And I think anywhere you put him on the foot, he's just a football player.
Yep.
He's just a guy that can get guys on the ground. He can cover. It's going to take a while for him and Antoine to get that chemistry and that trust. And the biggest thing you hear all the time is communication, right? But there's a reason why these two corners are here. There's a reason why they have made these adjustments. And, I definitely think it's because they want to get back to that pressure defense. They want to get back to that tight coverage. This is the one play I remember, one of many plays, but this one sticks to me in particular. And I'm not going to blame the guy, but it just tells you what you're dealing with. They're playing Kansas City, right, in a tight game. And they get an injury, and Josh Hayes either had to start or was playing significant time in that game. And they're down the goal line. And Josh Hayes has got DeAndre Hopkins sort of man-to-man. And Hopkins runs him into the end zone. Josh Hayes is probably 7 yards deep in the end zone when Hopkins runs a little hitch, and they hit him in the end zone for a touchdown. And Hayes is like behind him by 2 or 3 yards. It's like, where are you backpedaling to? You realize if he catches the ball, you're in the end zone. You're almost out of the damn end zone. And when I saw stuff like that, I was like, that's not NFL football. Like that, and they lost to Kansas City because they didn't go for 2 late in the game when they scored a touchdown. They went in overtime, lost the coin toss, never got the ball back, game over. But you don't have to have a Josh Hayes anymore. You don't have to do that. And I think that's going to be huge for this team because they've invested wisely in the corners. I think Zion McCallum is their best corner right now. He's grown every single year. And if they can get the coverage to match the pass rush, then I think they're going to be okay because Bowles will be able to do. And last year he even said, when we were talking to him in March, he goes, "Look, guys," he goes, "after a while, it was just smoke and mirrors. It was the threat of bringing people. It was the threat of blitzes." But he loves his wild card players. He loves these guys that he calls chess pieces.
Yep.
That he can move around at different positions. We've seen Vita Vea drop into coverage at middle linebacker from his spot at nose tackle.
Yep.
So he's going to be creative. I think they're more settled up front. And the good news is there's a big upside for some of these guys. Cansey very confidently said to us, what do you think? What's the ceiling for you next year? What do you think you can do? And he said, lead the league in sacks, not lead defensive tackles in sacks, lead the league in sacks. Like, that's the kind of confidence some of these guys are going into the season with. It's not a bad thing. You got to back it up. You got to prove it. But I not love their defense, but I'm starting to like their depth on defense. When Christian Izien is your backup nickel and backup safety kind of guy, you're pretty good. I mean, Christian Izien has played some really good football for these guys.
He has.
So you get Bryce Hall, who was a veteran that started the year last year, got hurt in week 1. You have experience there. I like having the experience behind the young players so that if you lose a starter, you're not dropping way off with somebody that's never been on the grass before. And then you still got your developmental guys. So I think they've made a big improvement. I don't know that it's going to be enough to get them, to the NFC Championship game or beyond necessarily. But we'll see, because the good news is there's so much upside on these young guys,
Well, but don't forget, the offense is, if the offense can just do what they did last year, you don't even have to improve your offense from last year.
Oh, you'll take last year. Heck yeah.
If you can average 29 points a game, this defense should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just improve by, 6 points a game, 4 points a game, right? Like, that's what you need to do.
And I go back to, and you brought this up, I can't wait to see Winfield healthy. And we've talked about this before. I was in Minnesota when his dad was in his prime. There's not many guys from the back end that can control the defense or control the game.
No, very few.
There's it's the Ronnie
Ed
Lotts,
Reeds,
the Ed Reeds, the Palomalos.
Right.
It's those type. That's what Winfield is. His dad was very similar, and his dad played corner, not safety, but like, he could control a game from the back end. So smart, always in the right spot.
Just always making plays. Just made plays, right? Like,
and that's
you
what
got to make
done
plays
until last year when he wasn't healthy, and then he wasn't making the plays.
Right.
And if he comes in healthy, like, that changes a lot in that back end.
Oh, if you get the 2023 Antoine Winfield Jr., I mean, you're in good shape. Now, Tyke's got a learning curve, but I think listen,
but Winfield being the other safety makes that learning curve a lot easier.
He's going to make him much better, right? And the great thing about Tyke is that he's already a smart football player, but he's a baller. Like, this dude eats, sleeps, and breathes. He's a Winfield-esque in the sense that he just loves the game, and he can affect it the way Winfield can. Winfield can affect it at any level. He can affect it in the deep middle. He can affect it rooting out the running game. Okay. Coming down in the box, playing the running game, and he can blitz. He's one of the best blitzing safeties I've ever seen. He has a knack for sort of putting a move on the running back that's there to pick him up and beating the back to the quarterback. I think Tyke's the same guy. I think Todd Bowles has an extra chess piece now, but it's a guy as Tyke. The reason he wanted to move to safety was, hey, I'm only playing 75% of the time. I want to play every down. So I'll take Tyke on every down. He made enormous plays last year as a rookie. And yeah, he's moving to safety, and that's a new position, but it's not his first year in the league. And he's got a guy like Winfield next to him. It's all about communication, that sort of thing. But I think Tyke Smith's going to be a star in this league. I think he's not just going to be a good player. I think he's going to be a star. So, he was at Georgia. No reason to think he can't do it here. Sneaky good offense or defense. I'm sorry. We don't know ultimately how good they'll be, but I think they're sneaky good. I think they're sneaky. And look, we haven't talked about guys like Vita Vea. Logan Hall had 5.5 sacks last year and didn't get premier pass rush looks. He played on first and second down, and he still had 5.5 sacks. I mentioned Anthony Walker, who, could be a starter for them this year. There's just a lot. Not Anthony Walker. I'm sorry. I mentioned the outside linebacker, David Walker, who could press for playing time. You still have Anthony Nelson, but you have David Walker from Central Arkansas, who's special to me. He's somebody I'm going to be watching hard. So I don't think. Look, they're not going to be top 5. They're going to find a way to get their 45 sacks if they rushed me enough. That's just what Bowles does. But getting off the field on third down, we remember the Washington game. They couldn't get the ball back to their offense. And that's the thing. Just give your offense 12 possessions, 10, 11, 12 possessions a game. They'll take care of scoring for you, you know. But they got to find a way to get off the field. They got to get pressure on the quarterback and be able to drop their 7 guys. I like the way they're built. I don't think they're elite. I think they're probably, if you had to predict, like a middle of the road defense. But they should get better as the year goes on. And, health is a big deal. But again, Hassan Reddick, man, could be the wild card in this thing. He's got Larry Foote, who coaching him again. There's good communication there. He's in great shape. We saw him finally at the mandatory minicamp. He stayed away in the off season to move his family down here, and he's all in. He's motivated. So, we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do it on grass. But these young corners, just mark my words, these guys can play. Like, I know, again, you got a first round talent in Benjamin Morrison. This guy would have been a first rounder on any board had he not gotten hurt. And doctors say he's going to be fine. He was out there in OTAs. He was full speed. I saw him make plays on the ball against Emeka Ibuka, all kinds of plays out there. Parrish had a bunch of interceptions. You don't see young guys show up like that early, but when they do, it's a really good sign. So they got some really good young players that need to grow up, and then they've got some guys like Hassan Reddick and others that, are still motivated to get their bag and prove that they can be one of the elite players. Like their defense. We'll see if Todd Bowles calls it. Every year he says he's going to look at whether or not he should call it, and then, you see Larry Foote or somebody there calling it, and then he snaps it back. I think he'll still probably call the defense. Which is fine because that's his forte. But it's, again, I think they're better. I think the key was we're not good enough on the back end. We're just not. We're not good enough, and we've got to find some corners. And they did. They found 2 guys. I'm telling you, Steve, these 2 guys can play. They can flat out play, and they can catch the ball. And one thing Dean couldn't do was catch the damn football. He couldn't catch the ball. He's had 1 interception in like 4 years. And that was like last season. So, looking forward to seeing him on grass. I don't know what else to say other than they got to prove it now. They got to go out and they got to prove it. And if they do, this is going to be a better Bucs team than it was a year ago. Because people forget they gave up a ton, man. I mean, remember the Atlanta games alone?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you gotta finish those games. I got up out of my seat in Atlanta after Lavonte David intercepts the ball on 4th down in 15, right? Returns it to the 25 of the Atlanta Falcons. That game's over. Yeah, they got a 3-point lead, but that game's over. They end up getting a bunch of penalties, getting a sack, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, they're not even in field goal range. Then Kirk Cousins completes 1 or 2 balls, and they're able to tie the game and go in overtime. Boom, they win it. I mean, that was a cataclysmic loss. That was a collapse of epic proportions, right? You can't lose games like that. You put this same defense out there this year, I think they're going to win it. I think they win that game. Of course, it would have helped if they had gotten a first down or 2 after they got the ball there at the, 15, 25-yard line, whatever it was. But it was not to be. But they left a lot of games out there. The Washington game sticks in their craw for probably on the offensive side as much as defense, but they couldn't get off the field. So we'll see what they do. But I would say overall, the arrow's definitely up. They got some good young players, and they got some ascending young players. Now they got to stay healthy. Figure out what's wrong with Kalijah Cansey getting the calf injuries in training camp. For God's sakes, get him some hydration. Don't overdo it with him. Get him to week 1 and see what he can do for a full season. He's predicted he'll lead the NFL in sacks. You take that if he's able to get close to it, but it'll be fun to watch. Hey, tomorrow we got a special treat for you on the podcast. We're going to look at the Bucs' 50th anniversary season. You're going to see this everywhere, folks, but man, what a trip down memory lane and sometimes misery lane, depending on your perspective. A franchise that began 0-26, 0-26, and then within their third season in the NFL, they were in the NFC Championship game. Of course, we know that they went on to win a Super Bowl after many other losing seasons. With John Gruden in 2002, Super Bowl 37, and then another string of some bad years. And then here comes Bruce Arians arrives, and then Tom Brady the next season, and they win Super Bowl 55. So long journey, man, a ton of memories. We're going to talk about it all on tomorrow's podcast on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Make sure you go down and see our friends at Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Find that great timepiece. The Breitling Company been in business for over 140 years. They've been there at the mall in Tampa for about 5+ years, celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. 32 team watches while supplies last. Women's watches as well, sports watches for your wife, your girlfriend. It is Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Make sure you tell them that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.